Today is morning poetry. We read something that could be a children's poem, though it's good for adults. It's from a not well-known poet, Obayd-e Zahani, who's
Not well here.
known, at least he's a contemporary of Hafez, so Hafez is well known. It's called A Cat and Mouse. It says, "Come listen to my tale if you're discerning, possessed of wisdom, common sense, or learning. I'll guarantee that it'll knock you flat. The stories of a mouse and a cat. A wise and knowledgeable one rehearsed this cat and mouse tale in well-ordered verse, like pearls that roll from rhyme to chiming rhyme. In old Kerman, then, once upon a time, there lived a lion-tailed cat, huge dragon-jawed, pot-bellied, barrel-chested, leopard-clawed. He'd mew. Roaring lions would leave their feast. Fleeing in terror from the savage beast, he dropped by at his favorite bar one day to hunt for mice and waiting for his prey. Just like a thief behind a rock, our cat prepared his ambush, prone behind a vat. Then suddenly a little mouse peered out, saw the coast clear and gave his squeaky shout, dashed for the vat and let his mouse lead sink deep in the dark, intoxicating drink. Now soaring drunk, he cried, 'Where is that cat? I'll cut his head off, or I'll flay the brat. I'll stuff his skin with straw, that cat, for to me's the most contemptible of enemies.' The cat sat listening, and he hardly breathed. Slowly his teeth were bared, his claws unsheathed, and then he pounced and like a leopard pined. The mouse who squirmed and squealed, 'I'll know I've sinned. I'm sorry, I—' The cat replied, 'I heard you, you liar, you fake Muslim, every word. You can't fool me.'"
Muslim, he says, the mouse.
He's a fake Muslim. And then he killed the mouse and ate it. With his belly filled, he strolled off to the mosque and glibly said his prayers as if a mullah born and bred. "Court of the highest, I repent no more. Will my sharp teeth be soaked in mouse's gore? And for the blood that I've unjustly shed, I'll give the poor as alms 12 rounds of bread." He prayed and moaned and heaved such bitter sighs that tears stood brimming in his feline eyes. Behind the pulpit lurked a little mouse. He quickly bore the news off to his home. "Great news, the cat's converted, he repents. He's filled with sacred Muslim sentiments. His paragon of pious virtues keeps the prayer vigils in the mosque and the moans and weeps." Then when they heard the news, the laughing mice seemed blessed with all the joys of paradise, and 7 elders of the mousy nation were chosen as a special deputation. Each of them carried in something rare and fine to give the cat. One bore a glass of wine, and one a spit of lamb kebab, and another took corons in his slaver, while his brother sported a tray of figs, one cheese he'd make, and one a syrup of sweet lemonade. One bore him yogurt, butter, and fresh bread, the last a tray of rice upon his head. The mice drew near the cat, and with salams and deepest bows and eulogistic psalms they greeted him. "O thou, for whom all mice will undergo the final sacrifice, accept the gifts we offer you, O Lord." He peered at them and chanted, "Your reward will be in heaven. I've fasted now for days to please the merciful, beyond all praise. Whoever does God's work, it's certain he will be rewarded and abundantly." Then he continued, "But come closer, do, dear friends, a few steps more, a few, very few." Then frail as trembling aspen leaves, the mice went forward as a group, and in a trice the cat leapt like a mighty champion, like a fighter who sees when and where to strike. 5 mice he captured, 2 in each front paw, and one was snatched up in his lion-like jaw. The 2 remaining mice that got away fled crying, "Slothful mice, oh rue the day." With claws and teeth the cats dismembered 5 of us, only we remain alive. And then at this bitter news the grieving crowd donned mourning clothes, lamented long and loud, heaped dust upon their heads and contrite cried, Alas for our great leader who have died. Alas, the mice were able to agree, we'll tell the king of this calamity, before the throne we'll chronicle our case, the foul oppression of the feline race. The Mouse King sat upon his throne in state. Far off he saw his subjects congregate, until they came before him as a crowd, and with a single motion deeply bowed. O King of kings and of the ages King, this cat has done a hideous, dreadful thing. O King of kings, we are your sacrifice, an annual one of us would once suffice to feed this cat, but since his late conversion, since he's become a pious Muslim Persian, 5 at a time is now his greedy style. And when they'd whimpered and complained a while, the king replied, My dearest subjects, wait, I've been revenged upon this reprobate. I'll kill this cat in such a way the story will fill the world with my eternal glory. He spent a whole week mustering his men. 300,000 mice at arms, and then another 30,000. Each mouse bore a bow and spear and shield and longed for war. Now, like a wave, they poured in from Golan, from distant Rosh and fertile Khorasan. The brave, victorious mouse addressed the horde. I speak now as your leader and your lord. A mouse must be our envoy to this cat. Our message is, submit, or failing that, you must prepare yourself for endless war. This was an ancient mouse ambassador who was entrusted to the valiant plan. He traveled to the cat's lair in Kermond, and there he bowed and said, I'll represent the noble Mouse King and his government, and bear a message meant for you alone. You must pay homage to the Mouse King's throne. War is the price if you do not submit. The cat replied, I've never heard such shit. I'll not budge from Coromand. But secretly he summoned cats to his confederacy. Cats like lions, cats from Estevan, wild cats from Yad, cats from his own Coromand. And when their army grown, they set out for the destined conflict, well prepared for war. Across the desert marched the mousy horde. Down from the hills the feline army poured. The plain of Pars became their battlefield. Each side fought bravely and refused to yield. So great the slaughter was, no man could say how many cats and mice were killed that day. Oh my goodness. The cat sprang like a lion and attacked the center where the mice were thickly packed. One mouse trailed his horse. The cat spun round as he spun full headlong to the ground. Allah is with us, cried the mice. We've won. Grab him. Grab the cat's doughy champion. They beat their war drums wildly to proclaim that victory was theirs in martial fame. The troops milled round in excited, jubilant, mobbing their Mouse King on his elephant. The cat's front paws were tied and tightly bound. They forced him as a supplicant to the ground. The king's command rang out, String up that cat. Hang the abominable black-faced brat. But hearing this feline's pride provoked. The cat seethed like a cauldron, panted, choked. Then like a lion he knelt and clawed to shreds his captor's bonds. They snapped like flimsy threads. He grabbed the nearest mice and glared around, then flung them with contempt against the ground. The mice fled squeaking in a massed affection. Their king fled in the opposite direction. The elephant, his royal rider too, his wealth and crown and splendid retinue, decamped and disappeared on that wide plain. Not one of them was ever seen again. And all that's left in this peculiar story, bestowing posthumous poetic glory on old Obayd-e Zahani. Consider carefully who lost, who won. Store up the story's useful implications. Remember it in tricky situations.
In tricky situations. Remember it in tricky
No, he says,
situations.
my son, consider carefully who lost and who won. Store up this story's useful implications. Remember it in tricky situations. Actually, he says, and all that's left in this peculiar story, bestowing posthumous poetic glory on old Obayd-e Zahani. We're reading from Obayd-e Zahani's poetry, In the Faces of Love. It's Persian poetry translated by Dick Davis. He's a contemporary of Hafez from the town of Saraz. Penguin Classics. The poem is of the cat and the mice. The cat and the mice. See?
It came
And
before Tom and Jerry. Probably that's from where the
This is
stories from
before
Tom
Tom and Jerry, and probably they had cat and mice stories throughout history, huh? Tom and Jerry came from somewhere.
Probably influenced.
This
Tom
is
and
the
Jerry.
original Tom and Jerry. And
Tom and the Jerichos.
This is suitable poetry for children, but it's recommended for
Great
most
for
adults.
grown-ups.
All right.